and welcome back to Football by the Numbers. I am John. I am joined by my two friends here for a FBTN short. Andrew and Will, how are you boys doing?
Could be better if SLU had made the Final Four.
Yes,
Very
tragic.
disappointing.
Pretty
Very
well
disappointing.
I'm really disappointed that not all our SLU superstars made it to that combine training camp as
for the MLS. How you gonna snub the NCAA assist leader? Like, what the heck? Just because he's
it doesn't
5
even
foot
make
6.
sense.
It's because he
doesn't
didn't
matter.
need it. He's going to go first round anyway. It doesn't matter. But anyway, we want to talk to you guys about a scandal breaking across the MLS. It's not reported upon because it's not been uncovered, except by us. FBTN exclusive. What the hell's going on? So Will, you posted this in our group chat. The Dallas Morning News has reported that they probably will not release Ricardo Pepi to go to Europe, and they are threatening that he will not be in the U.S. men's national team squad for the World Cup 2022. Now, we've seen this, of course, with Daryl DK this summer in Orlando City, not accepting offers, reportedly up to $10 million. I think it's dollars, might have been pounds, which could be like $15 million. Will, I know you said, we could see this with Miles Robinson. Will, give me your take.
It just doesn't make sense for me with Dallas. It's weird that in the past, they've always been willing to transfer players. Like we see Reggie Cannon move on, Brian Reynolds, Weston McKennie kind of left on his own. They didn't get a transfer fee when he went to Schalke.
They look to be farming Justin Chi out.
Yeah, they seem to be all for this, which is weird that they've kind of switched places now that they care about winning all of a sudden when they miss the playoffs this year.
Do we feel like the pressure is kind of coming from the new MLS team in Texas, Austin? Do you think they feel pressure of needing to be better than what they have been? Because they've been better than the Dynamo. Are they better than Austin, Texas?
I mean, they were this year.
But that's their inaugural year. Like, does that put pressure on them to feel like, oh, we need to perform better to have fans come watch us?
Maybe. They did fire their head coach, Lucho Gonzalez, who took a job with the men's national team. Pretty much a swap. One of the men's national team assistants took the head coaching role with Dallas.
The president of the MLS. Again, Will, shout out to you for being our Twitter news correspondent here, keeping up with all the news on Twitter. The MLS president actually said that FC Austin 1 had a great inaugural season, and he was really impressed with them. And number 2, he's not concerned about the MLS being looked at as a retirement league because of our heavy emphasis on youth player growth. So I'm wondering, because DK, Pepi, and there's a fullback over at LA Galaxy, several other players, Miles Robinson's barely over 20, but a lot of these players are under 20. Are we, as the United States, looking to build the MLS into a competitive league, or such as the ones overseas? Or are we trying to retain our players due to COVID precautions, and maybe we don't want to risk sending them over and catching some new variant over there? Or is it literally like a nepotism thing, like you stay in the MLS, you play for the U.S. men's national team, and other than the ones that have gone before you, you're not going to get any playing time if you try and force your way out? Andrew, what do you think?
I think if they go with that last note that you made, that they will have 0 talented U.S. men's national team players staying in the U.S. I think then you see what happened to us 10 years ago when you had guys on the roster that you didn't even know their names or how to pronounce their names. I don't see that being even part of a discussion. Now, do I think the MLS kind of wants to raise their level? I mean, what league doesn't? I think it's kind of inappropriate in a way, because you see all of the best players in the world go to Europe. Doesn't matter if you're in the islands, if you are in Australia, if you're in Brazil. I mean, the best players in the entire world go to Europe. So I don't know why the U.S. seems to think that they're different and that they need to be different. Like, oh, let's keep these players in-house. I don't even see that being realistic. They are playing in Europe because it's close. It's close. You get to compete in many different areas, whereas in the United States, you have not. You can't even say we're to the level of the first tier in Europe. We're maybe 2 or 3.
If you take the best, like we see every year with the MLS All-Star Game, you take the best players out of the MLS and you put them on a team and you try and get them to face off against Bayern Munich's reserves or Real Madrid and get slapped around if they're playing the first team, or if they're playing the reserves, maybe keep it somewhat competitive. When Daryl DK did this, his move to the championship would have been a step up, in competition and a step in the right direction. Will, what do you think? Why is the MLS blocking moves of all these players?
It's weird. I think some teams get the message. Like they're sending guys like who are barely cracking time, like Philadelphia Union sending a guy who's with the Venezia reserves right now. They get an offer, move them on. I think
even the Red Bulls, you look at the Red Bulls and they send them over. New York City FC.
Yeah, those are kind of different stories since those are factories, with the
those
Red
are
Bull
literally
system
feeder teams for European teams. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's the plan. Like that's the goal. Their entire goal is to farm team them out to Europe. Why would it be any different anywhere else?
Their highest product, right?
The highest product. It's the same thing. Not even that they're affiliated. It's your goal is to make these players the best.
Yeah, I think Don Garber needs to send a memo to every team like, hey, you get a reasonable offer from a European club, like ship them on. They're going to get way more attention, develop their game way more.
Yeah, and
let's talk money. Let's talk money.
That buyout clause, let's talk money. That buyout clause for Daryl DK is ridiculous. Yeah, is he worth $20 million? Probably. Is a championship club going to pay $20 million for that tier of a striker? No. We saw that happen with, I believe it was Sheffield United in their second season in the Premier League to try and stay up. I think Scott Parker paid $25 million for Ryan Brewster, who was in a Liverpool academy, an elite player on an elite team, and he went to Sheffield United and kind of crashed and burned. I think a lot of these championship level teams are afraid of investing that much money in one player. These are still kind of smaller cap teams over there still. So $20 million for one player is a lot. I think they received an offer of $10 million from Leeds. Why not take the $10 million offer? Like, I know you're probably trying to find, like with the Ricardo Pepi situation. If you're going to look for more money and then bar the player from going, the teams that can afford that caliber of a player are going to be the mid to upper echelon teams. And of course, they're not going to buy this player and play him first thing, because they don't have that money, unless they're a Red Bull team or a City team or some other, hierarchical team. I don't know if PSG has too many interconnected teams and affiliate teams like that. But those are the teams that are going to be able to afford these types of players. So if you're going to have a high price tag, you either got to sell them on for this high price tag and take the risk for the men's national team in making money, or you need to hold the player in hopes to develop the league. You can't just collude and say, if we get a super high price tag, we'll push them on and try and convince this team to play this player, or, get guaranteed playing time written into the contract or something or other. That to me sounds like collusion.
Yeah. You make an interesting point.
So much emotion, Will. That was very. I'm whacked in the face by that. That was impressive.
We got to fit some banter in here.
I want to touch on one of your previous questions, was like the threat that he's not going to get time with the national team if he moves on and doesn't play with a European club. Like right now we see that Greg Berhalter doesn't have a problem playing Zach Steffen, who doesn't get match time with.
Or Christian Pulisic right off injury.
Yeah, Christian's seeing like 10 minutes a match pretty much. Is striker that much different than goalkeeper? Where if you're not getting match time.
Not with how much depth we have.
I think goalkeeper would even be one of those positions where you'd almost need match time. You'd need some game experience. Whereas striker, you can be put into a lot of scrimmage scenarios and get a lot of that match sharpness and then get that extra step up with the match time. For me, Zach Steffen, like you can see that he's a little rough around the edges and he's been training with Manchester City. But when you have shots from weird angles or weird shots like the chips from 30, 40 yards out that are going over your head and looping and dipping weird, you only see those in games. So if we're going to go to the extent of playing Zach Steffen in these games, why wouldn't we play a Daryl DK who's training somewhere else, like a championship club or even a low-level Premier League team? Miles Robinson is apparently getting offers now from the Premier League and from the Bundesliga. He's probably not going to go and slip right into a Bundesliga or a Premier League team right off the bat. But are we just going to give up on him, one of the young players of the year in the MLS? I know Walker Zimmerman got Defender of the Year, but Miles Robinson had to have been up there. Like the U.S. men's national team is threatening these players, maybe not coercing the clubs to say don't sell these players, but saying to the players, if you go, you will not play for the men's national team. And that seems wrong.
Which I don't even get how that's even possible. When push comes to shove, I'm pretty sure the club's not allowed to deny a player for going to camp. I'm not really sure how that works. They're allowed to influence the decision, but I don't think they can withhold a player from actually participating.
You could be right. You are the pro here. I'm not too familiar with that. I am the armchair expert, as I like to call myself, and Will is the god of the net. He keeps everything out. Anything else to add real quick? We're trying to keep this video super short for you guys.
I think the MLS needs to stick to their guns, and that's developing talent to go overseas. Let's continue the excitement of American players playing overseas. I've never seen so many American players playing overseas than the past 2-3 years right now. And it's exciting. We're getting exposure from other countries that are excited about our youth over here. There's nothing better than that. Like, keep rolling the money. Keep bringing them.
It's like stay in your lane. We've got the best baseball teams here. We've got the best basketball teams here, as we see in the Olympics. We've got the best football teams here, the best hockey here. Like, let's stay in our lane. And if we're going to be so obsessed about money, let's take the transfer fees as they come. And if the money's not going to come, then let's work on developing it so that it will come. If we're looking at developing like a pure, whatever you want to call S tier, God tier, amazing players, send them over to Europe where that is their blood, sweat, and tears and their life and what the people work to spend money on. Will, what do you think?
I agree. I agree with your statements. If all three go, Robson, Pepe, DK, who do you think makes the most like instant impact with their club?
I think DK.
DK.
But I've been saying that the whole time. I think he's got the higher floor, I'll say. He's going to start up at a little higher level than those other two boys. He's already knows what it's like to train over there. He already knows the mentality and the difference between Europe and America. I think he makes a quick impact. I'm not saying the others aren't going to keep up with him or surpass him. I just think he has the tools right now to be.
Yeah, Miles Robinson I see up and down a lot of times too, and I think he could turn into a pretty solid center back. I'm not sure where his ceiling is. I think if Ricardo Pepi plays his career right and kind of does an Erling Haaland where he doesn't necessarily go to a Real Madrid or Barcelona or some huge tier club right away, I think he has a higher ceiling than DK, but I think DK can instantly make a difference at a club like Leeds or at a club like Southampton or somewhere where they need a goal every game or every 2 games or something like that.
It's kind of boring that all three of us are on the same page here.
Well, how about you show us some emotion, Will? Go ahead and show us some emotion.
Show us some emotion. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for some more of our FBTN shorts. We're going to continue our why XYZ players should not be called up to the men's national team. We got a request for Jossie Zardes. I will be doing that one. Stay tuned for those. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We are football
by the numbers.